Okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, September 14th. It is 12 p.m. This is a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. We have a special agenda today with 4 items on the agenda. We have CARES Act funding dedication to the Unmet Needs Committee, an amendment to the MOU with Build a Generation for fiscal sponsorship, a letter to mobile home park communities regarding rent increases, and CenturyLink contract for service delivery. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with agenda item number 1, which is the CARES Act funding dedication to the Unmet Needs Committee. So this is a funding request for dedication of some of the CARES Act funding that the city and county will be receiving. And the ask is that the county contributes $83,000 to the Unmet Needs Committee. The city has already dedicated $17,000 to the Unmet Needs Committee. Janine McGee is with us here today from Department of Human Services and the Unmet Needs Committee. Janine, would you like to just speak on this a little bit and give a little bit of background?
So on which part, what we've requested or what's been given, or both?
Just a little bit of both would be great.
Okay, so the request for this is a projected amount in terms of what we think will be needed to ensure folks can continue to pay rent through the rest of this year. And that's a rough projection, just paying rent for around 80 households. If we estimated that we could get the landlords to accept a reduced payment and say pay, for example, like 3 months. And I think the estimate is based on like 3 months of lot rent at around 75 or 80%. So that's just an estimated amount. And then you mentioned something about the 17,000 already, did you say?
Yeah.
I'd have to look and see, and that went to Unmet Needs Committee. I'd have to look and see.
Yeah, so City, sorry about that, Janine. So it's my understanding that City Council has dedicated $17,000 towards the Unmet Needs Committee because when we were talking about this in the work session regarding evictions, we had estimated $100,000 need, and so they went ahead and contributed that $17,000. So the request from the county would be $83,000, correct?
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. And I believe that is their contribution to it. I'm not sure if Mayor if he wants to speak to confirm that, but that sounds.
Yeah, the mayor's here.
Okay. I'm just not seeing everybody in there.
Oh, maybe not, but
that
Noah's
sounds
here and
correct.
he was at that.
I can, I made a presentation at council where they voted on that. They voted to contribute 17% of the 100,000 because that was the 83-17 split is what the city and county have been using. That money has not been given to any organization in unmet needs yet, but it has been dedicated.
Right.
Thanks, Noah. Would that
and
money?
It's my understanding the whole thing will be it'll all be reimbursement, right? So we'll need to spend it and then ask for it, or we can talk through the process a little bit later. But
Talk through the logistics. Would the money go to the community fund, Noah?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. I think if it went to the community fund, that would be great. Full Circle has been managing all of the community fund cases, and I think that they would be able to continue to do so. I think from the perspective of which organization does it make the most sense to, they're all functionally the same if it went to Build a Generation, Full Circle, or the community fund. But I think it would help the community fund the most, right, to be able to report out those numbers more than it would help Build a Generation or Full Circle.
Okay. Hi, Greg. Thanks for joining us. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, just want to make sure you can hear me too. Thanks. So yeah, we'll just quick clarification, the 17, the split came from the original allocation of the CARES funding, but it's not necessarily what we have. This is the first item to approach the joint allocation of that CARES funding. Also, I just want to Janine's question about reimbursement, I just want to, I'm not sure, I think we've all presumed that we could put the CARES funding to this, and I think that it is, as far as I've read, completely appropriate. I did get a phone call from our DOLA representative this morning, not just asking for an update on how we have spent that and if we need to submit for reimbursements on money that has been spent. I gave her a short list, and not being in front of my computer this morning to send her that. You know, there was one or two things on there that she was questioning. This was not one of them, but I just want to be sure that we know where the funding is coming from, if we need to consider that it is an ineligible expense. But again, I do not anticipate that to be the case.
You know, the only thought I have about it going directly to the community fund, which is the easiest way for it to get paid out, and we do need to make sure that that meets your reimbursement requirements. So I'm not sure what documentation they're going to want to show that this is reimbursement for expenses made. They may want us to, typically what we do with the Unmet Needs Committee is send a request after each meeting to the community fund and saying we're requesting X amount of dollars for X amount of households, and that's all they're needing. I'm just wanting to make sure that that's going to work for what you all will need to show that that reimbursement was made. The only other thing about yeah, go ahead. Is this John? Did somebody have something? Well, the other thing to think about is money that is in the Unmet Needs Committee Community Fund does have a 5% administrative cost attached to it that's assessed every quarter.
My understanding is that they've been waiving that, Janine.
Janine, hi, it's John McMurtry. That fee's been waived with our disaster relief fund. So we've never charged that.
Great to know. Very great. Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Labbe, I just wanted to clarify from the city that the city has contributed or memorialized $17,000 towards the Unmet Needs Committee for the purpose of assisting with the eviction and rent payments in our community, correct?
No, that's correct. I mean, that was specifically voted on to come from the CARES Act funding as our portion of $100,000, you know, kind of based on the assumption that was going to be initially how much we wanted to put in the Unmet Needs Committee to keep the ability of the Unmet Needs Committee to help our community.
Go ahead, Janine.
That's it. Sounds like, does anybody need more description of what this would be used for? Or does everyone feel like there's a good understanding of it?
I think we have a good understanding. I do just want to also be clear. It's not, you know, you mentioned some of the negotiating that'll take place to make those payments and keep our community members housed and in place. And I just want to be clear that it's certainly in the trailer home parks, but it's beyond that and isn't just isolated there. So we're aiming and casting net as you all have been, and that will continue.
Thanks, Sarah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable with this. So with that being said, I will make a motion that we dedicate $83,000 of county CARES Act funding towards the Unmet Needs Committee to assist with rental for rental assistance.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion, Commissioner Mudge?
Just to let's be Janine wants to take that one, or Crystal and Janine to speak with Christy at DOLA and administer this properly to for getting a reimbursement for those funds.
Will do. Commissioner Glenn,
Great.
any further discussion?
I don't have anything.
All right. So seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thank you both very much. Let's see here. All right. So we will move on to agenda item number 2, which is an amendment to the MOU with Lake County Build a Generation for fiscal sponsorship, which was passed along to us by Katie Baldessar. Katie, would you like to go ahead and talk about some of the specifics in this MOU agreement, please?
Sure. Do you all have, so first of all, thank you for the previous vote, because that's, yeah, we're super appreciative. I think Unmet Needs has been a real success, and just thank you guys for your contribution to help keep it going. On this topic, you all have a copy of that amendment, correct? I don't need to share my screen.
I do.
I have a copy of it as well. Commissioner Glenn, do you have a copy?
Not in front of me, no.
Okay. Katie, do you? Oh.
Yes, I can get it. Never mind.
Okay.
Perfect. So basically, on the grants that the county is a fiscal agent on, you all agreed back in December of 2019 that you would forward us each quarter a quarter of the total grants that we had out there. We then spend that down and then you are reimbursed by the state. That's been enormously helpful for us since we started off as a nonprofit without much of a fund balance. And that really helps us ease our anxiety about being able to spend those dollars, do the good work, and then make sure that you guys get reimbursed. There were 3 changes to grants. So all of these grants run on the state fiscal year, which is July through June. There are 3 changes this year to those grants. So now we're just sort of memorializing that in the MOU. The MOU between us is written with the assumption that these grant numbers are going to change. And so it just references attachment A. And so this is an amendment, proposed amendment to attachment A. It reduces your contribution each quarter. That is because by about $30,000. That is because 2 of the grants were reduced slightly due to declining A35 revenues at the state level. A35 is a tobacco tax. People were smoking less. There were fewer tobacco taxes. That grant amount was reduced by about 8%. And then Full Circle is going forward the fiscal agent on our OBH grant rather than the county. So pretty much what we expected. This is in your favor. With that, any questions? I'm not sure if I explained that well.
I don't have any questions right now. Commissioner Mudge or Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or need any additional information from Katie?
Nope, I don't. I'm looking at the 2, the before and after, if you will, the delta. So the original disbursement was $170,822.50. And the amended amount is 136,147.50 cents. And I think that's, yeah, that is clear. I appreciate you saying that for get that document.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or concerns or comments for Katie?
I do not.
All right. Katie, I don't have anything either at this point. We will just need to get this signed and recorded with your with our MOU and then get a copy back to you for your records, I would assume, correct?
Yes, and then we should have my board president sign as well, since you all signed and then she signed on the original MOU.
Okay, so Katie, could you have her sign a copy and then get that to me and I'll sign it and then I'll get it to Patty to get recorded?
That sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. So with that, with no further discussion, I will make a motion that we adopt the amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with Build a Generation for fiscal sponsorship.
Second?
All right, any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right. And I have nothing. So seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thank you, Katie. We'll coordinate to get that all taken care of. And once I get that from you, then I'll coordinate with Patty to get that recorded and a copy back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla.
Yeah, thank you. Next on our agenda is a letter to the mobile home park communities regarding rent increases. I'm going to hand this over to Noah. Noah, I don't have the ability to share my screen, and I'm not quite sure why. Even though I'm the host, I'm really not sure why I don't have that. But if you could read us a copy of the letter, or try to share your screen.
It looks like I might be able to. I can do both. All right, can you see that?
Yeah, if you could scoot it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Okay. So dear owner of the community, we have received word that your Lake County community of Mountain View Villages or Mountain Valley Estates intends to raise the space rent for select homes in October 2020. We were surprised to learn of this rent increase in the midst of a pandemic that has had significant economic impacts on our community, including residents in Mountain View or Mountain Valley Estates. As you are aware, many people in Lake County have lost their jobs since March and have been unable to find stable replacement employment due to the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic fallout. In light of this crisis, local organizations, government, and individuals have come together over the past 6 months to raise funds and create a process through which families and individuals can apply for financial assistance to help pay for rent and utilities during this time. Since March, the Lake County community has collectively raised and distributed over $300,000 to families and individuals in need. Your company alone has received more than $75,000 from these efforts, with many more bills currently being processed. And that number is for Mountain View. Mountain Valley is closer to 11,000. As a small but incredibly resilient community who comes together in the face of adversity, it is disheartening and shocking to see a large corporation make plans to increase rent at this time, at a time when many residents are struggling or unable to make their current rent payments. As a county, Lake County intends to allocate $100,000 of our CARES Act funding towards continued rent payments on behalf of residents that cannot make payments due to a COVID-19 related hardship. In order to remove uncertainty for landlords in our community, reduce the administrative burden of this process, and allow our allocation to help as many households as possible, future negotiations for rent payment will include multiple months' rent into the future at a reduced rate. We have 2 requests. Please reconsider this increase to space rent at this time and commit to not increasing rent for the next 6 months. And please work with us over the next several months as we continue to refine the support that we are providing to residents and landlords by continuing to participate in our initiative to keep people housed and landlords paid. So I sent this out last week, got some feedback on it, changed a couple of things. Wanted to discuss today Commissioner Mudge's suggestion to change the first request to either at least the next 6 months or if at all. again, this is a letter that we had discussed sending out last week on behalf of the board. So I wanted it to reflect the message that you want it to send. So happy to change any of this language.
No, I think the only thing to add in, from my perspective anyways, is when we talk about the allocation of the $100,000 of CARES Act funding, if we could add in this, that the city and the county intend to do that in collaboration so that that contribution is reflected from both of us. And then I'm not, Commissioner Mudge, if you could, or Noah, if you want to elaborate on Commissioner Mudge's edit for the space rent increase for 6 months. And then Janine, if you have anything to add to this from your perspective as well, if you'd feel free to jump in, please.
This is Commissioner Mudge. I do not see any issue in leaving the letter with the language as is. My suggestion, if I don't have it pulled up in front of me right now, was just to say we request that you consider not increasing lot space rent over at least the next 6 months. But either way, I think the conversation is being continued with partners, and you know, we will certainly aim to have those conversations among others with the mobile home park owners, as is indicated already in the letter. So either way, I think the letter is well crafted, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Noah.
Of course, thank you.
The only thing I can think of, and I apologize, Noah, I didn't have a chance to get it back to you because I was out. Do we want to ask for 6 months, or do we ask for the end of the pandemic?
That's a good, yeah. I mean, that's, yeah, I like that.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
Maybe even phrase it into this national crisis of a health pandemic. You know, like, I don't know, something like that.
I liked Amy Tate put in the chat the duration of the economic impact of the pandemic. I like that language.
I can't actually see the chat. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay. So if I add that language, the board is on board with, or you're in favor of that?
Yeah, I would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be.
As Commissioner Marcella's suggestion, yeah, make it clear that the county is in partnership. Although we will both be sending letters, but yeah. And I have another small thing. You know, would you like us? You know, we'll take this and we'll send it, and or how were we going to do that? Or would you like to do letterhead?
I wanted to talk to you about that. I can just copy and paste this language into an email, put it into a Word doc, and send it your way for signatures. Whatever is most convenient. Just let me know.
If you want to send it to us, go ahead, Janine.
Sarah Dallas just brought up a good point in the chat.
What is the point?
I was just saying, shouldn't we maybe acknowledge or point out that there's now the CDC guidelines saying no evictions through the end of the year? And should they raise the rents and cause additional hardships, there could be limited ways for them to, I see Chris is also responding. I'm just wondering if we just have an additional layer of emphasizing, you know, that we're in this pandemic crisis and there's all kinds of issues related to housing, which could even be not enforcing evictions.
Yeah, this is Chris. I was just going to chime in instead of typing, since I type slower than I talk. The right now the courts are anticipating that landlords are going to file challenges to the CDC's order. But I know that Judge Seamus intends, and I don't know if he's on the call today, but I know he intends that if, eviction cases are filed in his court, to make the landlords aware of the CDC's order and encourage them to comply until there's some other direction from a court or elsewhere. Even though the courts in the 5th Judicial District, I had drafted the document for tenants to give their landlords, and was hopeful that we'd be able to circulate it to the other courts as well. And unfortunately, outside of Lake County, the other courts are not willing to implement that document for tenants, or to make that readily available in their court. So anyway, I think locally we can do as much as we can to encourage our landlords to comply until a court comes out and says it's not enforceable. But I don't know that everyone's going to follow suit there.
I left it out originally. I thought, because I wasn't sure. I've heard that the CDC order was questionably legally enforceable. And I think like the main point of the letter is that we've been subsidizing your company for the past 6 months, and it doesn't really seem like a reasonable time to increase rent, and making more of an economic argument than a moral one or a legal one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing an opportunity to add additional, amplifying our message, but that makes sense.
Well, and I don't think there'd be anything wrong with saying in the letter, if you feel like you want something to the effect that, that there is currently a moratorium on eviction proceedings in the courts. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with raising that, and that you might not be able to get legal process through the local courts in a timely manner, just as a disincentive, if you will, without having to specifically reference the CDC order.
Can you all hear me? Sorry, this is Commissioner Mudge.
Yes.
Thank you. Was there something from the mobile home, sorry, what is it called? The operational program that's there to assist tenants of mobile home parks? Was there
BOP.
to prevent this too from happening? But again, I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably just a follow-up conversation to this letter, to Noah's point of like, kind of having a softer approach, but then coming back and us doing more to support reps that may be able to leverage some of those programs or resources to address that as well. My understanding is they're still developing some of the rules around some of those things. So I think there is a clear list of ways to submit complaints or concerns to the state to help address. Is this something that we might pursue assistance on from the state after sending the letter?
So the parks have the right to increase rent with 60 days notice, which they provided. The why it I think is problematic is because people haven't been able to pay rent as it is over the last 6 months, and so it seems unreasonable to expect that they would be able to pay an increased amount of rent. But it is, they followed the law in the way that they gave notice and intended to raise the rent.
Gotcha. Thank you. I think at this point I'm good with the suggested changes of the city-county partnership and the economic impact of the event.
Yeah, I would agree. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further comments or questions or anything to add to the letter?
Well, this is dangerously close to something I feel very strongly about, and that is the fact that, to me, government doesn't have the right to tell a business how to do business. Under the health restrictions, I somewhat understand it because health is at stake. What this is to me is a totally fiscal matter. It's all about money, and you're trying to tell a business how to do business, and to me that's totally wrong. It was pointed out, and I appreciate this, that for the past 6 months we have been helping subsidize this company with the payment of rents. So that's a real gray area to me, but I kind of understand the point of going after this company. So I just want to be on the record saying that this it could be a problem, but time will tell. And it's hard to argue about doing good for people. And I realize we're not doing good for the company, but we're trying to do good for the people that rent and work very hard to do that. So that's all I have to say.
I'd like to comment on Commissioner Glenn's statement. Mark, I agree with you, but I would also say that we can't make a landlord do anything. It's not really possible. I think that the message that Noah's trying to convey is pretty clear. We've been subsidizing. We've been keeping you whole during this pandemic. We'd like for you to. It's our request that you back off. I'm putting words in Noah's letter's mouth, but until this pandemic is over. I mean, that to me, it's a simple message.
And Mark, I appreciate your comments and concerns, and I think like in tandem with the $100,000 that the city and county are allocating, I think it's just like due diligence to request that those payments go as far as possible, and that landlords aren't expecting that they'll get those payments from government, because close to a third of all payments have gone to Mountain View at this point. So it's reasonable to expect that $30,000 of the $100,000 will go to Mountain View over the next several months. And if they're going to turn around and increase rent at the same time, it just seems like a misuse of government funds, honestly, right? And so if we can send the same message at the same time that yes, we're going to try to keep landlords whole, we're going to try to keep people in their houses, but you guys also have to play along during this pandemic. That's kind of the intent of the letter.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Is there anything else to discuss in regards to the letter?
I don't have anything. Conversation though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So with that, I will make a motion that we sign the letter for the mobile home park communities regarding rent increases with the changes discussed today. All right. So we have, go ahead. Further discussion, Commissioner Mutch?
Oh, I was just going to say, if you want to push that over to put that on letterhead and turn that either back to you, or were you planning, do you think the best way to deliver that is a multiple way, just through USPS and email? How would you suggest that gets sent?
It's fully your decision. I was anticipating email just because it's faster, and October is only a couple weeks away. But I would be happy to. I can put it in a Word document and send it to all three commissioners, and you can put it on county letterhead. I can send it to Sarah Dallas and the mayor as well, if they'd like to send it separately. Is that the preferred next step?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think I would suspect that we can send that to the owner directly. We can send it to management, and we can send it through the Postal Service.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thanks,
You bet.
thanks, Commissioner Mutch. Commissioner Glenn, is there any further discussion?
I have nothing.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you so much, Noah. We really appreciate it. The next thing on our agenda today is the CenturyLink contract for service delivery. And Commissioner Mudge, I believe that you were working on this, so I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Yes, we've been working to amend our CenturyLink contract that we were entered into without the board's knowledge last fall. And so we have worked through, I do not have the amendment as of yet. The tables of fees are not complete, but for the board's edification, we should be seeing probably Wednesday come to the table the downgrade. We got, let me back up a step. We were upgraded to 1,000 megabits from 100 on 3 of our main sites, the airport, road and bridge, and the courthouse. We do not need that much bandwidth. And at one of our sites, we were never even switched over and utilizing that. So we reviewed some of the utilization records and have requested the 100 to the airport and road and bridge. And there is a tiered fee structure for our appropriate usage on our 1,000 megabit line. And so we requested what that spectrum looks like for the courthouse, and we would likely be looking at a 200 megabit bandwidth or usage, I guess I should say, because we've peaked at about 180. But hopefully, well, I mean, we know that pricing will look much lower than the 1,000, and so we have upgraded the hardware, if that makes sense, to all 3 locations, and now have the proper language and options in with this amendment to move whatever that bandwidth is and that rate that we pay for the appropriate usage on each of those lines, which we do not anticipate to change with the airport or road and bridge. Yet we have the option without further penalty or expenses incurred by the county way above and beyond what we really need. So I expect to see that either Thursday or Friday of this week. Our account manager expects to see it Wednesday and to move that or forward that to myself and Amit, and we will forward that on as soon as we get it. So I do not have anything today to approve, but a little preparation there. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
All right. I don't feel like I have any questions at this point. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, is there, Commissioner Mudge, when you get a copy of that, will you forward that to Commissioner Glenn and myself, and then we will make a determination to put that on our next regular scheduled meeting, if necessary.
Yep.
Okay, that'd be
You
great.
guys do have a last amendment, but that was omitting, or it did not include, not purposely omitting, it did not include the tiered rate structure. So what we will see will include more options, but it will read the same as the contract that's been shared.
Sounds great. Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything else for Commissioner Mudge?
I do not.
All right. So I don't have anything else either at this point. Thank you all for joining us today. We're through the end of our agenda. Commissioner Mudge, you don't have anything else to add to any of those agenda items, nor Commissioner Glenn, I'm presuming?
I don't have anything else to add to the agenda items, no.
I have nothing.
All right. So with that, thank you all for your attendance today and constructive conversation in regarding some of those tough items that we needed to just make decisions on today. We will adjourn at 12:41 p.m. and see you next week for our regular meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, commissioners.